Well, welcome to our winter Bang a Can Poetry Slam. People have asked, where did this idea come from? This crazy idea, where did it come from? And actually, last summer, we were planning for the Make Music Day festivities here in town, June 21st, my birthday, always on June 21st. And the head of the Ridgefield Arts Council got a shipment of these beautiful mallets, like 3 dozen of them. And she said, "You're the poet laureate, you do something with them." So I figured, what do you do with a mallet? So I figured, we had a dog at the time, we had a cat, and I just saw this buildup of cans, and that was my answer. So that's where Bang a Can Poetry Slam came from. And what we'll do is, after each poet reads, if you are muted, we'll just ask you to unmute yourself and whoop it up a bit to show your appreciation of the poem. So without too much further ado, it's so nice to see audience members here. I'll let more people in as they come. Yeah, and that's, what I'd like to say too, that this is sort of a marriage of 2 different writing communities. We have poets from the Hudson Valley Writers Center, and poets also from the Ridgefield community, and others who attend Ridgefield different poetry workshops here at the library. So welcome everyone, we're glad you're here, and you're going to hear a large diversity of poems, and we are glad you're here. So any questions? Oh, here comes Alice. Okay, we were just missing one poet and we just got her. So, all right, I'm not going to give lengthy introductions to the poets. Just pretty much tell you their name and whether they're a Ridgefield poet or a Hudson Valley Writers Center poet. We all, by the way, have benefited from the company of other poets who help us work through our poems, and revise them and improve them. And also, we've built up trust levels with, and that's, I think, for both groups that I'm part of, both groups would attest to that fact, that it's great to have a community of other writers who you trust. So thank you to everyone here. Yes, Vincent.
You want us to say anything about ourselves?
If you would like to, just remember, I'm going to be timing you. We're going to keep it to a really strict 5 minutes because we don't want to run too long. But yes, if you would like to, and I also promised I would put a link to your book in the chat for people too. So.
And I think you should introduce yourself too.
Oh,
hey Jim! Congratulations,
Jim.
by the way.
Oh, thank you.
I didn't do that, did I? Hi, everyone. I'm Barb Jennes. I'm the Ridgefield Poet Laureate. I also am really happy to host a couple of poetry workshops at Ridgefield Library and also at the Aldrich Museum. And I'm also a member of the Hudson Valley Writers Center. So that's a little bit about me. And we have 15 poets who are going to share their work with you tonight. Poets, if you would, I will give you notice if you're starting to run long, but just try to time yourself if you can, keep it under 5, and we'll take it from there. So let's start. Well, first, let's do an audio warm up here. Everybody you ready? We have to do an audio test. You ready? Okay, let us have it. That's good. They're working. We got sound. Great. Okay, our first poet is a member of the Ridgefield Library Writers Group, and his name is Andrew Levine. Andrew, take it away.
Okay, here we go. First poem, Place Making. It starts with a line from W.S. Merwin from his poem called Place, and it's on the last day of the earth, I would want to plant a tree. Silhouette tilted towards soaring palms, beloved fronds against blue Maui sky. Trees dance through decades, and life increases slowly underground. The palms are in your poems, spare couplets, space to breathe. Tending a garden of words, walking the wind-swept ridge. It's taken 66 years to know how little I know, how much there is to know, how little time is left.
Oh,
And this is called Old Men Crying. Old men cry easily, their hearts tender, hungry for meaning. Boys still hidden inside them recount raucous pranks, while older versions of themselves whisper of lost and silent fathers. So much life happens, too much to be wiped away by dinner napkins or a quick blow of the nose. 30 years ago, I heard the sound of old men crying, huddled together, their wails and sobs escaping bottomless well, a cacophony of communal grief, incomprehensible to my younger self. That day, I vowed not to grow regrets, not to neglect the body's wounded places, not allow what was broken to set badly. Yes, but how? How to keep the heart open, to bid tears flow without regard for time or space or place. Old men in a darkened room listened to Yeats's tale of Carnetta, looked clearly at a young prince badly burned, spirit exhausted, and they cried for all of us.
Hey.
And this last one is Mother to Daughter. It's after B. Fulton Jennes, if any of you know her, which was after Jamaica Kincaid. This is how you walk into a room in heels, even if you're not quite ready to wear them. This is how you use shears to cut out a pattern, wind a bobbin, weave a Mother's Day potholder. This is how you say no and how you say yes and why you must say yes to what's in your heart. This is how we'll teach each other to forgive when damage gets done. This is how a hug feels when you mean it. This is where your voice sits when you rock your girl to sleep. Like this, when you admonish her. And like this, when you sing to yourself in an epic teenage shower. This is how you share clothes with your best friend, make a sauerbraten, 3 days in the brine, how you stir the pudding to perfection and beat the egg whites into a meringue. This is how you grin and hold the bucket when dad cleans the gutters. This is how you get the water stain off grandma's side table. No, spread the ash thinly. This is how you set a table for Easter or Passover if you marry a Jewish man. This is how you court some amount of beauty in every day. This is how you keep the nuns from seeing you cry, how you make your Mets hat into a rally cap. This is how you pack a suitcase. Remember, take less. This is how you protect your food from the seagulls at the beach, how you apologize to your teacher when you've withheld your best. This is how to send a cherished pet to its resting place. This is how you choose a man you'll want to grow old with. This is how you say no to one more drink. This is how you make peace with the genes your father and I have passed down to you. You'll teach me that one when you've figured it out. This is how we'll talk about the tough things, giving up my driver's license, selling the house, waiting to move closer to you. This is how I will find you over and over again, and how love's scars will heal layer by layer.
Oh, okay. Unmute yourself, everybody. That was wonderful. Thank you, Andrew. And just so people know, Andrew had at one point challenged me to write a poem about a father talking to his son. And so I recently challenged him to write a poem about a woman talking to her daughter. That was lovely. All right. So next up, we have a spoken word poet from way back when. We have a Hudson Valley writer and poet, Wayne Miller. Welcome, Wayne.
Yeah. So I have three pieces, spoken word pieces. These are persona. They're not me. They're some fictional person. Also, unfortunately, I have a conflict in about 10 minutes. I'm going to have to leave. I'm sorry, I'm going to miss. I'm going to actually connect from the car so I could listen for part of it. First piece is called So Many Things I Don't Know. Darkness presses my shoulders, but I don't bend, I don't waver. I run across the bridge towards the light on the far shore, a favorite restaurant. At the bar, I ask the bartender to tell me something I don't already know, and he looks at me strange. So I say to him, maybe you could tell me. Maybe you can tell me why I'm asking. He pours my usual and says to me, do not be the one who asks, be the one who answers. See that man over there? He needs an answer. That lady here, she has a question. So I paid a check, take my drink, and ask the lady, what is your question? And she says, excuse me? So I ask her again, what is your question? And she asks, why? So I pause for a second and then say, the bartender advised me that the answers to my questions are found in the questions of others. So what is your question? And she asks, who are you? And I answer her with words I never told myself. I thank her and head home. The second piece is called Trajectory. It has an epigraph by Williams Carlos Williams. A poem is a small machine made out of words. Much of truth is boring. There's no surprise in it. This morning, as I was getting the paper, my next door neighbor tossed some truth bombs into my yard again. His aim is getting better, most of them landing on the mulch next to the front door and scorching some weeds. Then he fired fusillades of fun-filled fireworks into the front fence. No damage, but still, it was boring. I don't know what he's thinking. A copper truth pipe delivers the flood of 24/7 into my house, and I don't want extra. Can't use it anyway, damn him. I pulled out the burnt dandelions and waited until he was in his backyard, and then I countered. What about this? What about that? What about desire? What about pain? What about elections? What about Williams machines? He looked askance and asked me about the Williams thing. So I told him. I pull artifacts from the muck, clean them, describe them, write what each one means. I shake the words until they snap into place. If my descriptions compel someone to realize an aspect of themselves, that's not my responsibility. For my descriptions, maybe they'll craft a cutting-edge file to flash their firmware. I hope they're skilled enough to forge and wield sharp words with care, but I provide no protective gear, safety guarantees, or training. While I was talking, his eyes glazed over and he walked away. I'll show him. I'll write some audacious new work and sequence it with a few older pieces. I'll do it up jazzy, modulating mood by alternating tension with release. Tomorrow, before I get the paper, I'll launch that collection of poems, targeting an arc over his maple tree and aiming just to the right of his wife's lawn gnomes. That'll carve smoking craters into his ryegrass, truth missiles flying from my fingers. And this last piece, it requires some imagination from you. Imagine that this piece of paper is in front of you and you're reading the words. Your eyes are on the page. The poem is called Listen. Why is he asking me to listen while I'm reading his poem? What kind of title is Listen? Fair warning. My goal is to get you upset. I want you to feel a rising swell of perturbment. Are you perturbed yet? You don't like the word perturbed. Change it. Use a thesaurus. Agitated, alarmed, annoyed, bewildered. Sit down and get uncomfortable. Pick up a pen and revise this poem. I'm giving you this piece of paper, so cross out words, cut lines, converge verbs, abolish adverbs, adjust adjectives, excise em dashes, swallow in white space, trim throat clearing, erase editorials, vary viewpoints, pair propositions, marshal metaphors, render rhythms, rattle rhymes, standardize stanzas, reimagine images. Use your revisions, begin a play or flash fiction or memoir. Start your novel right now. Have an extra pen so you don't run out of ink just when Charlie is ready to kiss Samantha. Don't edit, flow, don't stop. Write your dreams, your nightmares, your reality, all your wrong ideas of reality. Don't think, don't listen, grab it, pull it, shake it, twist it, tie it, pack it, pull the cord, open the chute, ply it down onto paper, your words, your life, your thoughts. fix what needs fixing, fix what can't be fixed, fix what might be fixed if you just keep trying, keep trying. And when the flood slows, stick your arm into the muck, lift out an artifact, wash it clean, then look at it again, and realize that the answer is not as important as the question. What is the question? What is the right question? Because if you find that right question, the answer is perfectly obvious.
Hey.
Yes. Perturbed. I'm perturbed.
You're perturbed.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Wait, I always love that first poem. It always reminds me of The Matrix somehow, but that's great. Wonderful.
Matrix
Next
book?
up- I'm sorry?
The book, The Matrix?
Oh, no, the movie The Matrix.
The movie.
Okay, so next up we have a Ridgefield community poet. Her name is Susan Sheridan, and she'd like to dedicate her poem to the memory of Ogden Nash. So Susan, take it away.
Yeah, for those people who are unfamiliar, Ogden Nash was a light comic poet of the last century, and I liked his work a lot. He really wasn't taken seriously that much, and I read an interview with him where the interviewer said, "Mr. Nash, does it bother you that you're not taken as a poet, taken seriously?" And he said, "That's the idea." So with that, this poem is called Comes the Mad Day. You never know people, Grandma would say. I mean, what they will do when it comes, the mad day. They may steal, they may lie, they may drink, they may cry. They may drop you, their friend, for no reason you know. They may take all the money, and to Paris they'll go. They may leave their husbands, abandon the kids. They may learn Italian, or just wish they did. They may change religions, ignore Christmas time, not to mention those poor souls who start writing rhyme. But the mad day will come for you too, and for me. Gran, what will you do? Pray to just let it be.
Oh, okay.
That's it, I don't have any more.
Wonderful. Wow. Thank you, Susan. That was delightful. People don't understand how difficult writing in form and with, rhyme schemes like that can be. So really appreciate that one. Thank you. Next up, we have a Westport poet, Donna Dish. She's part of our Ridgefield Library group. And Donna, take it away.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to read two poems. The first one is called Shelf Life. Old books smell earthy and deserted, like that lone potato hunched in the bin. They smell like damp cellars in late April, riverbed loam, dusk and ratty dried roses. And yet when their musk shrouds a room, most of us inhale it like something freshly baked. Why does this scent appeal to us? Something about the long marriage of paper and print, our confidence in their spines and threads, their secret glue hardened like ancient honey, or our years of holding them and them us with their wholesale truths and whopping feats, how we wandered down their silent, snowbound streets, the lifeless tundra eyeing us in the distance. So when their moss and shadows swamp us in an attic or smolder on a shelf, it's instinctive. We flip them open for a gust of their grand heft, pulling in the solitude of their bone-sad sweetness, their little tease, our little taste of their years of night without us. Gravity. For years, the old brick grammar school crouched on its haunches, unassailable as a sphinx. Then one day, without warning, something stupendous yanked the school out of the ground, clean as a weed, held it high and rattled it hard like a piggy bank. Every last teacher, bubbly, austere, or stale, pelted the playground below like pennies. The students were never seen again. Over the years, their pencils, scuffed shoes, and computations fell from the sky as they, harnessed to the papery stars of their own making, drifted farther and closer to the wide open heart of just about nothing. And yes, they were cold and scared without their coats and hats and mothers. But there were no rules or desks bolted to floors, and all the time in the world to lose and waste at their hooky pond, light years from school, frisking and diving in its clean, cold water that lapped and swallowed their extravagant bodies. But the day itself seemed somehow somewhere else.
These are beautiful.
Okay.
Oh, wait, are you done?
Are you done?
I'm done, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay,
Yes.
everybody unmute yourself. Somebody said they can't hear us.
Okay, thank you.
That's great. Thank you, Donna. I am familiar with that last poem. It's my favorite. I love that poem so much. Thank you. All right, so next up, we have from Hudson Valley Writers Center, poet Vera Salter. Vera, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, good.
Okay. It's great to be here with everyone. I'm going to read 3 poems inspired by my husband, who has a diagnosis of Lewy body dementia. The first is titled Things My Husband Told Me and is published in Persimmon Tree. When college fell apart, I returned my burgundy Mustang and joined the Marines. I was in my new uniform when a friend called to me in horror as I crossed a San Francisco street. We marched through the city of Hue before it was destroyed and returned through the rubble. I loved hearing Diane Warwick as she blasted over loudspeakers. I jumped out of my well-dug foxhole when an armadillo jumped in. I felt warm as a baby in the arms of the corpsman who carried me out with malaria. We loaded body bags from the Forrestal fire onto our hospital ship. There were more dead than they said. They did not want Black leaders, but had no choice after so many soldiers were killed. The commander sat on the hillside as my squad led this large Tet Offensive operation. I told the radio man to go to the back, but he said, "I'm coming for you," and slumped dead over my body. Airlifted to a field hospital under gunfire, I saw a soldier strangle a wounded prisoner. Jeered at home, I discarded my uniform and almost joined the Weather Underground, but married instead.
Wonderful.
The second one is titled Consistent with Lewy Body, and it's published in Red F Review. He sits with his hands in his lap, unsure where he put them. Watches 2 women, one tall, one short, walk through the closet door. Swollen feet shuffle soggy paper towels to clean droplets from the speckled tile floor. He showers, I mop, then towel water from his back. At breakfast, he asks, "Why am I in Louie's body?" We hang our answers on a clothesline, read the paper and pray for a free and fair election. Together go into the garden, turn on the sprinkler, admire the round red hibiscus he planted last year watch a tiger swallowtail drink nectar from a tiger lily. At night, he inspects the house, turns on the porch lights, locks the terrace door I left open. And finally, things my husband tells me now, that's published in Prometheus Dreaming. Help me stop the baby in the blue onesie from reaching the fireplace flames. It's disgusting how hard it is to get my puny arms into my t-shirt. There is a dead hobby horse on the glass table outside. My brain is a scattered handful of cotton seeds. I can't remember the point I try to make. Do you see the man climbing the electric pole? Are you sure the spider you see on the floor is real? That's it.
All right. Unmute yourselves all. Give Vera
Thank you.
and banging. Yay. Oh, Vera, your poems are always so brave. It's just astonishing to us who are in your class, and for these folks too, I'm sure. Thank you. Okay, yeah, someone mentioned that they were getting some feedback, and it probably is best if you're not a reader, to mute yourself while the reading is going on, because sometimes there's a your speaker feeds into your mic and we get some feedback. But so next up we have Alice Green. Alice, you're in Canada, aren't you?
Yes, I am. I'm just I'm sorry, since a lot of people have read 3 poems, I thought I only had 2 available, but I will read 3. So good. So the first one, Raphael on a Moped, was published in September last year by Mask and Spectacle. Okay. In a museum in Rome, there are rooms dedicated to Raphael's Madonna and Child, images that depict motherhood as peaceful and serene, so surreal for those of us with wailing children in tow. But last summer, while sauntering on a tree-shaded path, a woman appeared on a sky blue moped. A gold helmet covered her long, ruddy hair that billowed behind her like a veil. In an orange sling, she held a young child with curly red hair fluttering in the breeze. His dimpled face and pudding cheeks contentedly rested against her rising breasts. When the moped whirred past me, I noticed her serene Madonna smile, the kind only icons can sustain. And my second poem is one that we just finished workshopping last week. My favorite high school shirt was made of finely woven silk, a creamy cappuccino with princess sleeves. Its small pearl buttons held it tight against my ribs. It disguised my boyish silhouette and gave me voluptuous curves. The first time I wore it, it raised the gaze of senior boys and made girls touch the texture of its skin and asked me, "Where did you get it?" I never told them. My mother pulled it from the trash bin of a businessman's young mistress. Okay. And I have a prose poem that was published by Prometheus Dreaming last year in August. It's called My Father's Women. When I was 6, my father's girlfriend, Doris, drove us to the bus terminal. At every red light, she dabbed at her eyes with a wrinkled tissue. My father kissed her for a long time while waiting passengers lined up for the bus behind us. The bus driver took 2 tickets from my father, then nodded to me to climb in. With my father sitting next to me, we waved to Doris as the bus pulled onto the street. I spoke to my blonde-haired baby doll while my father scanned a magazine filled with naked women. Preparing to fall asleep, I wrapped my doll in a blanket and covered myself with my jacket. I woke to the horn of the ocean liner waiting for us at New York Harbor. On deck, men in gold button uniforms greeted us. Our cabin had bunk beds and a porthole, half covered by algae green water, the other half blue-green. Anyhow, maybe I should stop here because and this may not be the right version. Okay, maybe I should continue. I'll complete it. Sorry. That first night, my father turned off the light and left me alone in my bunk. I hugged my doll and told her she didn't need to be afraid of the dark. The ship held a welcome ball, adults only. Ladies wore long evening gowns. In the morning, he was in his bunk. On the second night, he disappeared again. The following morning, his bunk was empty. Instead, he arrived in time to go for breakfast and dropped me at the ship's nursery, a room filled with children's toys and an indoor slide. The third night, he introduced me to a new lady friend, Lizzie. She had blonde, silky, shining hair and black eye-lined, crystal clear blue eyes. Every night she kissed me and my doll goodnight and left the cabin with my father. On the last day of the voyage, I said goodbye to a girl I met in the nursery. Her mother greeted me in their cabin. She gave me a pendant and said, "Give this to your father. He's quite the gentleman." When the ship arrived at Bremerhaven, my father and I had a tearful goodbye with Lizzie. She gave me a doll blonde like her, with long black eyelashes and eyes the color of crystal blue water. My father kissed her for a long time as passengers lined up to disembark. On shore that night, I followed my father to a phone booth in the harbor terminal to call Doris. Before he dialed his number, he whispered to me, "Don't say a word about Lizzie." I placed the Lizzie doll in a bag and waited for him, holding my baby doll close to my heart. Yeah.
Good girl.
Yay. Oh, here we go. Make yourself some noise, folks. Thank you. Wonderful. Wonderful. Wow. And by the way, I don't know if you noticed the painting behind Alice, but she's also a painter. So
thank you.
There you go. Yep. You have some polymaths in the crowd here. Okay. Next up, we have new mother, Ridgefield poet, and wonderful poet, Crystal Sampson.
Wow, thank you. I have 3 poems here. I'll see if I can get to all 3. The first is lighthearted or confusing, depending on, how you see it. And there's a rhyme scheme. So also does not have a title because I was sort of working it and don't have a title for it, but here we go. Your forehead is like the awning outside an Arthur Avenue pizzeria. Your eyelids are as puffed as new pillows from a Macy's Labor Day sale. Your nose as strong as an addiction to social media. Your cheekbones as high as a sky-bound chemtrail. Your beard as full as a Halloween moon in the year of our Lord 2020. Your front teeth as gapped as the platform to the London Tube. Your neck as soft and kissable as your waterbed belly. Your loyalty as joyfully bound as a woman in rope play sheened in lube. Your cuticles shredded as purple radicchio in a salad dinner, and ego defenses as spicy and bitter. Your confidence as relaxed as a germaphobe in a mess. Your anxieties as tense and bothersome as the next progression of an Invisalign retainer. Your faith as blind as red-eyed rabbits volunteered in a no-tears shampoo test. Your gaze as fixed as gravity on earth. Your love as fixed as gravity in water. The next poem came about from a prompt where we were to write about something that we take for granted. This poem is called Earth. The only home place. I am no Martian, no Mercurian, no Venusian. I belong here. The just right gravity place, my fleshy matter of just the right weight, enough to press down my spine over the course of 90 years and not in an instant. There is nowhere else for me and you. If my life were measured by the billions, the sun would suicide by age 10, my home swallowed in the overdose. And finally, I have here winter means. Winter means my daughter's first Hanukkah and mucus running like hell out of nostrils. It means battling her for her comfort, her head moving side to side, resembling a primitive no. I wield my suction bulb and unsheathe her saline drops. Winter means the plants can wait for water another week, I presume. I hope to preserve spring's return on investment. Winter means tank tops and short shorts in warm houses, means cooling breaths on scorching drinks in mugs that bloom hotter and hotter.
All right, here we go. Thank you, Krista. Wonderful. I love the first poem. I assume, was it a love poem to your husband?
Yeah, it's I guess it's my love, our love.
It was charming. It was wonderful. All right,
you.
thank you. Okay, so next up we have another Ridgefield area poet, Danielle Riccardi, who is a gym teacher, right? Danielle, is that what aren't you a gym teacher?
Yes, yes.
No, so thank you.
Yep.
Take it away.
Okay. I'm going to read 3 poems for you, 3 short poems. First one's very light. The title is Hello, period, and in parentheses, alternative title, la 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 la. The writer waits at his desk, shifts in his seat again. Bling, bling, bling. The critic has endless patience. Bling, bling, bling. His speech is always the same wellspring. Bling, bling, bling. He calls a back pocket home. Bling, bling, bling. Plug your ears. Hum. Squeeze your eyes shut. Do not answer. The second one is called Laughter. The sound arrives in a burst, popping up like spring crocuses after winter, a deep delight like champagne bubbles or an endless expanse of white sand, cool blue water, where the silky sound is fertile ground to lay a tired body. His laughter is a jazz that serenades. Here I am, unflinchingly human. Doesn't your heart flutter a little bit at the purity of a moment, open and unguarded? And finally, this last one is called How the Canvas Muses. If I were going to be marked up, let the scratches tell the gallery about my survival. Those who ask for silver linings watch. The rain disappears into the earth and restores. If I were going to be marked up, let the splotches color the way one relates to others. The art is a picture of a fellow traveler teaching the model for a lighthouse how to paint. If I were going to be marked up, let you, the artist, arrange the strokes as a hallmark to grief shaped new. Because if I weren't going to be marked up, I couldn't fully be me. Thank you.
Wonderful. Great. Oh, gosh. Thank you, Danielle. That was great. Now, by the way, your connection was dicey, but your voice was beautiful, and it was actually kind of fun to watch your video in slow motion. So it was fun. Thanks again. All right. Next up, we have a Hudson Valley Writers Center poet who's also a musician. In fact, by the way, the reason that Wayne Miller, our second poet, needed to leave early was he was going to go off to practice with his band. So we have a lot of people here with more than one forte. So next up, Jim Garber. we're looking forward to hearing your poem. Oh, and this, by the way, is a poem that Jim just had published in an anthology. Tell us a little bit about it, Jim.
Well, yeah, I was going to read that last. Is that okay?
Oh, okay,
well,
yep.
Unless you want me to only read one poem.
No.
Okay, I'll get to that one anyway. First one, Shards and Slivers. If I had held the glass with both hands angled to slake my thirst, then I would have been all right. But instead, I texted my friend about a fishing expedition in May, and the glass crashed down on the hardwood floor into hundreds of pieces. Large ones easy to see, small ones not seen, though sweepable, but the radius of the blast larger than I calculated, with pieces sliding under tables, chairs. So I intended to leave you a note, my dear, to warn you. Please do not walk barefoot in the kitchen. Yet those slivers cut into my palm and left splinters in my fingers, and I think of time I've lost. I might have relaxed with you for a few moments before daily chores crowded my hectic schedule. The best way to handle crow's feet. The cacophony on the wires above him startled Corbin, but he noted how they mimicked musical notes on the staff. Then she flew down to meet him on the sidewalk, and knowing a lot more than he did at 9, strolled up to him and stared with her sidelong glance, beak pointed toward the street. He bent down to touch her head, scratched between her wings as she extended her claw toward him, nestling her black talons in his open palm. He dropped a peanut on the concrete for her. She flew up to rejoin the raucous cadenza. His mother watched him from her window. He could see laughter around her eyes. The end of the world. Lying in my bed, a leaf in my hand. Speared by sunlight from nearby windows, the leaf's green edge paler than its body, but darker than veins that send nutrients to the plant. My fingers paralyzed, but a window left open a crack allows a soft breeze into the room which vibrates the leaf up and down in some syncopated samba. I close my eyes to dream, then open my eyes inside another dream until I close them to see the leaf now in your hand, and you touch my forehead and speak in a soothing voice. Words I can't understand. I can't see you. I can't hear you. Can't touch you. Can't taste or smell you. The room spins clockwise, then in a spiral nebula towards fluorescence as the leaf lays in my palm, static, drying. So, today is actually Lewis Carroll's 190th birthday, and just as I forgot the name of the organization, is a publisher in Philadelphia that is putting out an anthology, and they were asking for submissions of a nonsense poem. The title of these, and the theme of it is Lewis Carroll, of course, who is the king of nonsense. Of course, Ogden Nash was good at it too, so that was a good connection there. But anyway, say happy birthday, Lewis, and this is my contribution to that anthology that supposedly I think will be published in next month or two. Beginnings for beginners. Always remember to place your beginning before the ending. In fact, don't forget to also place it before the middle. On the third hand, you must realize that the beginning is not really a beginning, since it is after the title. So maybe the title is the beginning. Or you could write something before the title and make the title post-beginning. Or even put the beginning as the penultimate line, which is still before the ending, but after the middle. I wonder, though, why we call them the beginning, the ending, but not the middling. And then I wonder why there can't be more than one beginning or more than one ending. Sorry to confuse you beginners. Here is my advice. Write your ending first and end with your beginning. And drink lots of coffee and eat a scone with apricot jam. Thank you.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you, Jim. That was fun. Definitely. Definitely in the Lewis Carroll ilk. That was wonderful. Thank you. And congratulations. That's great. All right. So next up we have another Ridgefield area poet, Jessie Longman.
Hey guys. So I'm going to start with this one. Don't sit there square and cunted into your curls with tangled legs and a loose pose, sanctimonious on the blue sofa. Haven't you hatched? I heard you were a pearl stepper with a giggle that readjusts thermostats. I don't know for sure, but I think you'll want to redecorate. Keep a suitable air for small children. They don't breathe well with masks on. This thing you do it for yourself. It's a point no one else wants to make. Life is not efficiently spent alone. No one ever does. Take it from me. We are all of us serious about making an impact. We just don't know where to land. Friends rely on concentric circles of squatting aristocracy flung out to the national fringe. So where was it we were all going? Who do we believe in? Someone with power, certainly, but today was too long a wait for what I'm talking about. Representative humiliation. Let's be clear where we rank. I heard once there's a lost colony that survived all our liquid attacks and subliminal suggestion. I heard if one of them speaks, they all will. The catastrophe of an opinion. Where was the channel change? After all those years, with no one to witness it, they say they'll keep on speaking. Even though it's only theoretical, I hope they figure it out. And this one's called Lover Loser. Lover, you got lost in a toss-up of pretzels and Netflix. I didn't know how to couch you next to me with the bars being so full of missed calls and broken signals. The telecom companies have nothing to say about it, though they send their man in blue button-down to stare at his shoes, butt clenched against the blinking modem. The night was starting to doze. We were out of detergent. The TV was on. What else? Our day had been managed by our own indifference. You wouldn't floss. There was nothing else to do, I kept hearing you say, and the noises of the place agreed. That afternoon got on without us. We scurried without appointment, texting friends to say we'd be late. A draft at the door meant you didn't want to stay, and I didn't care about my skin peeling around the knuckles or how you sneered at the delivery boys in the hall, getting comfortable in the hall. Waiting is for suckers, you said, and punched me in the nose. So I thought about a lot of it, and you looked adolescent with a yellow fuzz lining your cheek. Lipid kid. Oh, how I forgot to ask you how it all started so long ago. And then this one, he dedicated his life to book parties, testifying about the day in hard to determine terminology with other men, middle-aged and unemployed, translating records. They lived under the stairs in hard to reach back places of weird commitment and misplaced signs, breeding creatures of mistrust between them, furry things that manage to say nothing at all, pictures in a hallway of years-long dead pets. What did I know about words in those days? Peddling boredom. I was 20 and fantasy was a trick. I cared only to smudge paper and make guilty sex with undefined men, cooperating on street corners in the face of just anyone. I remember some of it. Dark rooms that coupled and uncoupled your eyes, looking for echoes with pupils distended to all the more respectable corners of any number of unhurried day beds. A place where women could tilt their heads to achieve a more flattering look. It wasn't the end of the world, I'm not saying that, but it felt wrong doing it. Neon egg white, inaccurate. And I told them I liked saying so all over the place. People hate to be bored, betray each other just to get out of it. In this way, it's hard to let go of not making sense. Each opinion diminishes whatever it was you thought you were about to say. An effort isn't reliable when intemperate. We knew at this point there's a time for what we can do under these circumstances. It's not all the time in the world, believe you me. One tends to want to care again. The conduct of a career, climate control in inhospitable weather. I myself continue to guard against the day when someone else will ask me, what have you done for me lately?
All right.
Hey.
Wonderful. Oh, that was fun, Jessie. Thank you so much. Couple of great lines. I love the catastrophe of an opinion. What a great line. And then about breeding creatures of mistrust between them, furry creatures. Just wonderful. What just imaginative and full of great lines. So thank you. All right, next up we have a woman who has done so much for the poetry community in Ridgefield. She was, until very recently, the director of adult services at the library. She did all sorts of wonderful programming in poetry, allowed me to start doing workshops. So I want to say thank you and to welcome Leslie Lambden. Hello, Leslie.
Hi, everyone. Well, I was going to start by thanking you, Barb, and saying what an amazing job you've done as poet, first ever poet laureate of Ridgefield, and you've done an incredible job spreading the good word of poetry. So I know you all feel the same way. In fact, this first poem I wrote at one of Barb's wonderful Poetry on the Path workshops. So this one is called Pickup Truck. I was 4, maybe 5, and lying in the back of a pickup truck under warm blankets, looking up at the night sky. We'd been camping out in the bush in New South Wales. I remember the tin tub all of us filthy kids would bathe in, because 50 years later, that tub is still tucked in a photo I have in a book upstairs. But the stars, those I could never forget or capture, the way the universe wrapped around me and got so deep into my soul's bones, I would know forever I had the earth's blessing, its pulsing, yes, yet unblinking love. This next one is about smoking, not about me smoking. This is dedicated to a woman I would see most mornings sitting out on a porch when we went for a walk. Smoking is like having a dog you have to walk in all weathers. Early mornings when you'd much rather stay tucked under cover, he pulls you out to the porch to bark at strangers striding by in their luminous armbands. With each drag, his irresistible eye lights up red enough to lift the sun from its horizon, till you believe in new beginnings and forget the regret of yet another resolution gone up in smoke. Look at that boy, isn't it beautiful? You say to no one in particular, as the nicotine soothes your rugged lungs, calms your nerves, makes you feel lucky to have such a loyal, if demanding, friend. Okay, two more. Pass, fail. What if, when we get to the pearly gates, the question is not, how good were you, how bad, but how much did you pay attention? Name me 43 species of trees, 10 words for snow and why, 5 types of kisses for babies. Which star would be the best to guide you home, and which to give you comfort if you have no home? And the final one here, which was actually published in the Connecticut River Review, I'm very proud to say. This one is called Observing a Family at a Poetry Reading. Always the best place to observe people, I find. Observing a family at a poetry reading. The father sits front row center, dressed in black, so everyone will know he is serious and understands the other poet who is droning on at the altar of her ego, mixing her metaphors, peacocks and asphalt, pear trees and trapdoors, oil and water, which he gladly drinks. The mother sits with their children further back among the people, all trapped in the heat of their incomprehension. One boy with wild hair and dark, imploring eyes complains and wriggles and writhes. She throws him one of those, "Don't dare do this to me now, mother love-hate" smiles, then lays his ruffled head on her lap and strokes a simple love poem on his back. The whole room sighs.
Ah, wonderful. Yay.
Absolutely.
Always beautiful. Thank you, Leslie.
And Barb, I was just going to say, are you going to read anything tonight, Barb, at the end, maybe? I didn't see your name on the list, but I hope you're
That's right. I'm not on the list. We'll see. I'm afraid we're running long, so we'll see. Go away, Leslie. I'll put you on mute. All right. And I love that. How much did you pay attention when you get to the pearly gates? Been thinking about that a lot lately. All right. Next up, we have another Hudson Valley Writers Center colleague poet of mine, Susan Coronel. Susan just arrived home, so she's not in the car anymore. Are you there, Susan?
Yeah, great to be here.
Hello.
Great to be among such wonderful writers. The first poem I'm going to read is called I'm going to read 3 poems, and the first poem is called Having Boba Tea with You, after Frank O'Hara, and it's written for my daughter. Having boba tea with you is even more fun than swimming in Key West or shuttling to the top of the Empire State, gawking at the Rockettes from plush velvet seats, or jumping into a pile of sprinkles at the Museum of Ice Cream in Soho, where you fought with your teenage sister because she dug a hole and left you out of it, partly because you're the youngest in the family, and streetlights glimmer through the sun's open mouth, linden trees wide with wonder. It's hard to accept that you're growing older as I marvel at the thicker hair between your brows. We hold hands crossing the street, and I'd rather look at you than all the people in the world. When you were 4, you helped me mount a tent on a rolling hill in Vermont at a music fest to support solar power. You slept through the rollicking bass of Marcia Ball's blues and a thunderstorm that lashed the tent until 3 a.m., wind screaming through the fields, the deep quiver of charged electrons pounding above us, but not a drop of water got in, and you slept on your cheek as soundly as a pine tree or black bear, not rustling the sleeping bag or opening your eyes even once. We're breaking the sealed surface of transparent plastic cups with fat straws of peach and blue. We are standing on the edge of the world as black spheres float in our tea, brown sugar for you, jasmine for me. As we chew the tapioca balls, we allow the cold, creamy tea to coat our tongues and throats with bubble love. The tea is a bit too sugary for me, and you look a little bored, glancing at your phone. But bouncing in this bubble keeps us from sniping and solidifies our mother-daughter bond at an adequate level of sweetness, even through salty times and sour hours. The radio is singing as we walk in the park. Sugar, oh honey, honey, you are my candy girl. On a hill of flowing water and strange sunshine, we are floating for our lives. Okay, the next one is called How Easy It Was to Attempt to Mate, which was a childhood memory. How easy it was to attempt to mate on Saturday nights when my friends and I made prank calls from my parents' bedroom as they dozed downstairs by the flickering TV. We were certain that our opening phrase, "Can I speak to your son?" would yield a boy under 21 but over 13. We were virgins dreaming of interlocking tongues, hips that rocked against zippered jeans. On the end of the line, joy upon finding a boy named George, just shy of 16, who agreed to meet by the wetlands on our dead-end street. Lori and I were lookouts as George's fingers engulfed Val's ebony mane. For a long time, they sucked face behind a curtain of reeds. Moonlight blew through opaque clouds. Like the clouds, they parted as quickly as they merged, pinpricks of light guiding us back to my room, where we opened a stash of many liquor bottles, French kissing the backs of our hands. All this practice taught us years later that boys still charm like elephants, the long wave of trunk and rhythmic swish of tail, stroking and feeding themselves what they needed. Its magnetic pull was never enough, but we were never ashamed by the thrill and sway. And the last one is called "To Whom Do I Belong?" To whom do I belong? I belong to the roach, its slippery wet mouth scuttling under sheets. I belong to the star train on which my loved ones crossed over. I belong to sunsplit sky and salamander sand. I belong to the Creator's rough-hewn cross. I belong to a tarnished Star of David. I belong to wind, a remover of masks. I belong to the tunnel of an eardrum. I belong to the dust we all eventually become. I belong to the linguistic throttle of poetry. I belong to half-open doors, alcoves, lanterns, and rusty locks. I belong to the bruise on my skin that turns yellow and spreads like a map. I belong to vanilla ice cream, its sudden chill in my mouth. I belong to sharks in the water, skirting the bathtub where I sleep. I belong to lace on my old wedding dress, drowning to the sound of still air. I belong to a wolf pup licking her coat. I belong to a caramel carousel that flavors fields by the arcade. I belong to the punch bowl from which I pull out a sock and a calloused heel. I belong to trumpets talking in their sleep like a sheep's low bleat. I belong to the river of strong bones and peppermint rain. Thank you.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you. That's great. Thank you. And Susan, by the way, has had a lot of luck with publication lately. So I'm sure if you Google her name, you'll come up with a lot of hits. So good job, Susan. We're proud of you. Okay, next up, we have a dear friend of mine who is also, by the way, the poetry editor of a wonderful online journal called Anti-Heroin Chic. James Diaz, please join us. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, hi.
Hi. Thank you, Barb. This first poem I'm going to read is called Poem for Frenchie. It was written about a decade ago for a friend of mine that I met in Occupy Wall Street, a homeless woman who was so full of fight and beauty and power and wasn't really treated that way among the other occupiers. Was on the outs among people who were on the outs. And in this poem, I try to speak to what that's like. This is Poem for Frenchie. With you, I am not you. In winter, there are drugs, scrappy streets. You can dream food and only see the life others carry around in handbags. Small circular warnings, how the sky opens its well-fed mouth. Jumping in, if rails weren't closed. The secret is no one is human, but they know how to do human so well. In the mission, on cots, coughing through the night with something serious burning in the lungs. I used to be so full of life, you can say to the air that makes you sick. While in lofts where hipsters have trendy sex, it just means they don't look at each other. And the hardest part of life, when the elevator won't work, when items are sold out, when bums are in your way. I go into the wall with my face, smash things, the idea of self or history, taking a long time to give decent bread to a close friend. The ground where love grew, whose brother-sisters sat helpless in the rain, who laughed a great deal about the whole thing. When I see a good mattress on the street, I think of how to get it to you. This next poem is was written for my father. He lost two brothers very young, very tragically. And this was published in a magazine from Ireland recently that wanted to hear of people's family stories. And this is for my dad. It's called Jamie, Mike, and Dad. The Fisher King was like blood to me. My uncles wore their capes inside of themselves, so they were thrown into rivers and open elevator shafts of light picnicked around their weary, their yearning, their long hauling. I saw my father call up their ghost every time he put the needle on the record. Saw him go back in time through mean streets and the hell yelling in the tombs, throwing TVs through windows, dodging cops on every corner. Asleep for 2 days on a bench in Tompkins Square, my father says he awoke from a heroin daze, looking for the ghost of his brothers in all the usual spots. Still, all these years later, he's looking inside of old songs for a trace of them. These Fisher Kings of the quarry, the junkyard, the river Styx, these bloody, beautiful poets fallen and fallen through holes of American sadness. Stars burn out, but linger. I can see them still, and every fallen man stooped over along the last exit to heaven, yearning and burning for what never came, but was always shining up on that far hill like a sleepy eye, saying 1 more mile, and it's all smiles. 1 more mile. The road is closed, always closed, for them who were beautiful and burning. And this is the last poem I'll read, called This Is How It's Done. I hope the stars, I hope the river, I hope the hand that feeds you. I hope the cross and the gather and the lose and the soul fuckery, the meanness of it all. These things that fill and empty our lives out, that somehow you'll do okay in it, not fade to black too soon or early or ever. I hope what they took from you returns as a bird in your backyard, so reliable in its being there. You give it a name. I mean, you are what you've been through. But also canyon, Russian river, crepe myrtle, unexplained lights passing over Denver, kindness cup overflowing. We become bigger than the hole in us. I know what it means to survive. It means burn and burn, but don't burn back. Don't torch the birds. Give it a name, that pain. A name you can live with. A name like faith or where you're headed to. Hop in. I'm going that way. When you're not, you're not. But you were once rider and not driver, on the side of the road, water in your shoes, fire in your belly. We all have to learn how to give better of ourselves. Give and give till the giving communes, gathers, holds, helps, heals, carries us home, is just each other, leaning on each other, calling out. I hope the hand, I hope the light, I hope the poem, I hope the... Thank you.
Oh, beautiful. James, thank you so much. Oh, such soul depth. I love that. We become bigger than the hole in us. What a great line. And it's true. If with luck we do anyway, and with work. So thank you. Oh boy. Oh, okay. Next we have another favorite poet of mine from the Hudson Valley Writers Center. Alice Campbell Romano. Alice, do you want to tell us anything about yourself? Oh, did she?
Alice, you're muted.
Oh,
Sorry about that. Now we've, oh dear, I'm sorry. I just understand that poetry has to do an awful lot with how hard it is to love and how painful it is to love, and how writing poetry somehow helps you to live with all of those aspects, self-love and love for family. And I've heard some pretty remarkable words tonight from really wonderful poets. Thank you for putting this together, Barb. I met a tiger once. Tigers can spring 10 yards from a standstill when they're young in the wild. What was I doing there? I don't recall, except the keeper and the tiger We're near the upstate mountain place I pay taxes on, and someone sent me to the tiger fella, mangy old hippie. Rescued the beast, he said. Must be a dozen years now. I don't think the cage inside the barn was 10 yards square. Careful, lady, careful. An adult tiger is a long animal, even a fat old tiger in pain. From red shadows at the back of the barn, waves of motion, orange and black, flowed the tiger's length as he crossed the barn up to the gate. Just don't get too close. What would the tiger do? Teach me a lesson? As if I could vault from my standstill to my rails, power them open, hurtle past my pain and age. I met a tiger once, in a cage, in a barn upstate. He was one who should have raged. I think that once upon a time, I was young, and I did notice the armature on which their flesh is formed. Some men have at their core a magnet of desire, charged by a constant current of electric need. Heat smolders outward, as from a night-banked fire through skin, drawing women to them, and men. I feel the pull in the easy way they stand before they turn and catch my gaze. Such men use the power behind their eyes to start a blaze. I am wary. I look away, deny the draw, but weak as crumbled leaves, I burn. If it turns out that you live long enough, things will turn out okay, and you might have some small secrets like, I take pride in a well-set table and a well-made bed. The first, because I have the privilege of food, which I am fortunate to share, and which tastes better when linen is fresh and glassware shines. The next, because when my love climbs the stairs after his day is over, he is old and he hurts. The broad bed, the smooth spread, color and texture varied according to the season, upright pillows on duty to support our shoulders until we have read ourselves to gape mouth, sleep, and one of us reminds the other to turn out the light. We pull the pillows under our heads, slide down into sheets both taut and soft, and reach hand to touch good night. My last poem comes before one of my favorite poems from our workshop, and that's Vincent Bell, and I do recommend reading his book. It's a great read. It's a terrific read. This poem is something that arose out of a workshop which melded watercolor and writing to see whether they influenced each other, and the instructor gave us the admonition to let it bleed. Everything bleeds if you think about the possible places the line or the brush can go. Twin baby girls back in hospital 2 weeks after birth, bird-sized babies in doll beds in a darkened room, their mother folded into a window seat. My son-in-law and I trade visits, one of us always at the house for the 3-year-old who carried a virus from daycare home to his sisters. What might have happened then, unthinkable. What might yet happen, unthinkable. If you let it bleed, if you let the wash open and spread, you cover the page with colors that bleed into each other as your mind bleeds into your mind, and you think of how to protect the impossible to protect. The big brother, the twins, their parents, a son far away with his own private devils, and the son in San Francisco whose wife goes to work at a hospital where she is lead chaplain to the chaplains who minister to patients. And she too ministers to patients who, no matter what she does, will or will not die. Thank you.
Oh, wow.
Beautiful. Oh.
It's all about sex and death, right?
and excellent segues, might I add. Thank you, Alice. Very cool. All right. Next up, as Alice said, we have Hudson Valley Writers Center poet Vincent Bell. I just want to put in the chat here, Vincent has a new collection out, a wonderful, as Alice said, a wonderful collection called Gut Renovations. You can order it through Amazon, although I always, of course, much prefer to special order it through your favorite independent bookseller. And Vincent, anything else you need us to know?
I've been writing poetry a long time, and I'm still not sure that I understand it. But in any case, my book, Gut Renovations, was published about 2 months ago, and I'm going to read a couple of poems from it tonight. The first poem is called Family Work. It was always dark in our 15th floor apartment, so I used the light from the TV to see the cereal I was eating from a plastic clown bowl. I stared at the skyline through wooden blinds, wondering if I could fly. I wore old pajamas and a corduroy robe. My father left for work with attaché and gray fedora. Already at work, my mother was sitting in her disheveled nightgown, doing a crossword, gin with OJ within reach. I shared a bedroom with my 2 older sisters who had already left for work. I slept at the top of a double-decker with one sister below and the other along an opposite wall. I kept my clothes in a hallway closet outside their bathroom. The second poem is called Weekday Routines. On the way to school, past the convent, I carried a school bag with my glasses, undone homework, and a fried egg sandwich on white toast, dripping with butter. I walked over metal sidewalk doors, hiding the stairs down to tenement basements. At First Avenue, I joined kids outside the candy store, licking colored dots off strips of white paper and sucking colored liquid from small wax bottles. We were 3rd grade junkies. In the church, I scrambled to sit with my class, rows of boys, then girls, with a nun in black punctuating the paragraph. The Mass was theater. Bells, processions, costumes, burning incense, and bowing led to the consecration. Then we went to our classrooms to eat our egg sandwiches. Sorry, I'm losing my voice. The third and I think last poem is called He Trained the Altar Boys. My wife is scared to wake me in the morning. Every night for decades, I have had the same dream. So afraid of sleep that I numbed myself with whatever was around. There is a man lying on top of me, always in the darkness, never recognizable. At times, I am about to hide, so he would find another boy in the gym. In my solitary confessional, I write to escape these memories. Now an old man, my foot is stuck in a steel trap. I'm chewing it off so it won't destroy me. Thank you.
Vincent.
Well, great.
Amazing. Yep. So great.
Thank you. This was a great evening. I mean, Barb, when you suggested that I come with a can and sit there and bang it, I was a little confused, but it's certainly an interesting take.
Isn't it? Oh, it's fun. Oh, and it has been a tremendous amount of fun. Thank you, everyone. I will read a short poem to take us out because it's so close to Valentine's Day. It's not my favorite poem. It's not my best poem, but it's a nice poem, I think, to end the evening. And it's called Be a Watercolorist with Your Love. First, cover your good clothes. You're bound to make a mess. Don't scrimp on supplies. Remember, you're aiming for something worthy. Embrace your limitations. There's innocence, urgency in those primitive strokes. Then be courageous in filtering the essence of other through your own tenderest alcoves, your impressionable eyes, your swooning synapses, before swashing out a celebration of the twin-hearted chimera you've become. But the most important thing is this: always leave the white. Blend and meld yourself around that pure, pure offered part, like a cat curling to fit the boundaries of a soft, inviting lap, knowing that the warmth is not its own to keep. So that's it for tonight. Let's see, where did everybody go? Are you still there? All right, here we go. Oh, thank you, Bob. Oh, thank you, everyone. What a great night. And we'll do this again. We'll definitely do this, hopefully again on June 21st. So meet us outside the library in downtown Ridgefield. We'll do another outdoor version of this. And I hope you had fun. And thank you, poets, so much for taking time and believing that this can banging was something you wanted to take part in. So
Thank you.
Everyone, have a good night.
Ron,
Thank you all.
Bye-bye, everyone. Thank you.